Hi everyone, welcome to Chinese Anchor. The Prime Minister of the UK came to China, paid for pastries with his own money, used chopsticks, and even walked through a lantern festival in the rain. But here's the really surprising part. People from the UK can now visit China visa-free for up to 30 days. So that raises a question. If you came to China, could you actually travel the same way he did? Today I'm going to show you how to copy his entire trip. First stop, Beijing. But the thing that surprised me the most wasn't where he went. It was what he ordered to eat. A lot of people would probably guess that a foreign leader visiting China for the first time would choose a Peking duck or maybe Cantonese food, right? But this time, they choose Yunnan cuisine. And what's even more interesting is this wasn't the first time. Back in 2023, when the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen visited China, she also chose Yunnan food. So why do so many foreign officials end up choosing Yunnan cuisine? Interestingly, a Swiss guest at the dinner that night actually explained the reason. To be honest, what surprised me the most wasn't what he said. It's the fact that his Chinese was incredibly fluent. Check this out.
很多外国的政要在中国都会吃云南菜，比如说英国首相，还有美国的耶伦。为什么云南菜会这么受欢迎？
它是比较健康的，从这个云南很丰富的一个大自然的出来的，因为好像全世界已经认可这个云南，从它的环保，从它的基本的情况是也保存的比较好。我估计这个是一个原因，他们有很多少数民族，所以这个当然对这个美食，他们也做可能比较巨大的贡献。
The restaurant owner said there were two dishes that were almost completely finished. The first one was Bleacher's mushroom rice. Yunnan is famous for its wild mushrooms, and the aroma is incredibly rich. The second dish was mint potatoes. It sounds simple, but a lot of foreigners are really surprised by how good it tastes the first time they try it. Here's another interesting detail. The average cost of the meal was about 270 renminbi, which is roughly 30 pounds. So in other words, if you come to China, you can actually enjoy the same kind of a meal as a Prime Minister on a perfectly normal budget. After the meal, the Prime Minister visited a place that almost everyone goes to when they come to Beijing for the first time, the Forbidden City. This used to be the home of China's emperors during the Ming and Qing dynasties. A total of 24 emperors lived here for nearly 500 years. But a lot of first-time visitors run into the same problem. The place is huge and they don't know what to focus on. If it's your first time here, here's a simple road that's very hard to get around. Just remember 4 places. Meridian Gate, Hall for Supreme Harmony, Hall for Central Harmony, Hall for Preserving Harmony. Let me give you a very simple way to understand these places. If you imagine the Forbidden City as a company, it actually becomes much easier to understand. First, the Meridian Gate is like the company's main entrance. Everyone enters from here, and it's also the most impressive gateway in the entire complex. Then as you walk further in, you will reach the Hall for Supreme Harmony. This was where the emperor held the most important ceremonies, coronations, royal weddings, official appointments, and even military send-offs. Further inside, there's a place many visitors tend to overlook, the Hall for Central Harmony. And this place is actually quite interesting. Before any major ceremony, the emperor would rest here, adjust his robes, and prepare mentally before appearing in public. In simple terms, it was basically the boss' VIP waiting room before going on stage. Finally, you reach the Hall for Preserving Harmony. This was once the final examination hall for the Imperial Civil Service exams. The emperor would personally oversee the process and ultimately decide who would enter the highest level of government. If we put it in the modern terms, this was a bit like the final interview stage for top-level government positions. After seeing all these grand halls, a lot of people start to wonder about something. Where did the emperor actually live in his daily life? The Palace of Heavenly Purity was where the emperor slept and handled everyday affairs. The palace of earthly tranquility was the residence of the empress, and it was also used for imperial wedding ceremonies. The imperial garden. If you're starting to feel tired, the best place to take a break is the imperial garden. It's a great spot to sit for a while, relax, or take photos. Practical tips. If you ever visited the Forbidden City, here are 3 useful tips. First, book your ticket in advance. There's a daily visitor limit, and it's very hard to buy tickets on site. Second, try to arrive early. It can get extremely crowded. Third, spring and autumn are the most comfortable seasons. Summer can be very hot, and winter can be extremely cold. After leaving Beijing, the Prime Minister's next stop was Shanghai. The first place he visited in Shanghai was the Yuyuan Garden. This is a traditional Chinese garden with a history of more than 400 years. But what made it really special was it was raining when he was there. And honestly, Yuyuan in the rain was a very unique atmosphere. During his visit, he stopped by several iconic spots: the Zigzag Bridge, the Huixinting Tea House, and the Yuyuan Lantern Festival. He also looked at the lantern displays, and there was one lantern in particular that caught his attention. It was Larry, the famous cat from 10 Downing Street. Besides Yuyuan, he also visited a place that's almost impossible to miss when you come to Shanghai, the Bund. What makes the Bund so fascinating is this: all you have to do is turn around and you will see 2 completely different worlds. On one side, there are historic buildings from more than 100 years ago. On the other side, there are the skyscrapers of Lujiazui, the Oriental Pearl Tower, Shanghai Tower, and the Shanghai World Financial Center. If you ever come to Shanghai, here's a small tip: try to visit the Bund at night. When the lights turn on, the whole atmosphere of the city completely changes. After walking around, there was also a fun little detail. The Prime Minister actually bought some butterfly pastries himself. One box cost 48 RMB, which is around 5 pounds. And I have to say he has the great emotional intelligence because he hadn't even tasted them yet, but he said 1 bite and it's happiness. Oh my god, I have to give him credit for that.
1 bite and it's happiness.
If you're thinking about taking a compact and efficient trip to China, this visit by the UK Prime Minister actually gives a pretty interesting reference. You could almost copy the itinerary. And by the way, if you came to China, which city would you want to visit more, Beijing or Shanghai? Let me know in the comments. Alright folks, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.